Saturday morning, everybody. I hope we are having an awesome day. It is finally a non-rainy day here in the Metro Atlanta area. I think that it had rained every day since I got back from Massachusetts. And it rained like just about every day while I was in Massachusetts, even if it was just for a little bit. But that's what it's doing here, is just raining for a little bit. And I am like, I need a nice sunny day. And finally, we have one. It's going to be a little warm, but I'm okay with that. It's gorgeous outside. I've got plans to spend a little bit of time outside this weekend, and I think it's going to be wonderful. So, yeah, it's going to be great. I'm kind of excited, and yeah, just going to be fun. Today, I am working on homework, which tends to have to happen every now and then. This one is going to be the dragon fruit homework because, you know, we're finishing it up next month, so I got to get my blocks done, which means finding some of the blocks and finishing some of the blocks and finding and finishing some of the blocks. But I decided that today I am going to work on the really, really hard one. And it's only hard to start. Everything else has been stuff that we do every single time that we can with foundation paper piecing. So it's not new technique. It's not anything else. But it's, just a lot of fun. But before we get to that, let us see who is in the chat. Firsties is Candace. Good morning, Candace. I heard you went shopping and bought some Ruby Star. That sounds like a lot of fun. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Karen. And then also Kathy. And then Faith is saying, hi, Russ, pop-up soda. That is correct. My friend Steven of The Idiot Quilter he's hosting a pop-up soda today over on Zoom. It's private. It's not broadcast anywhere. It's just a whole bunch of friends just sewing with each other, and I will be joining it after this live because I still got to do my live every now and then. YouTube really appreciates it when content creators go live, and if they do like regular upload and live stuff, they get promoted out more. And I am like one subscriber away from 1,400 last time I checked. So if you're not subscribed and you like my stuff, please subscribe. I want to hit 1,400 soon. Because it's like every time that you hit a milestone, they tend to bump you up even more and more. So that is my, begging for subscribers time. Good morning, Ingrid. How are you today? So let me find my chatty thingy. Here it is. So this is the paper. Okay, upside right, this is the paper. And I've already pre-folded it because that makes it easier to rip and do your folding and stuff later. But with a snail trail, you have a 1, 2, 3, 4 in the center. And it is impossible to foundation paper piece a 4-patch like that. And so I have pre-created my center square. The seams are pressed open in the back just to give us a little bit of flexibility, or what. And so I know what number everything is. On number 2, I wrote the word mint because that is this color. And as I line everything up, I want to put the mint on the mint. How am I going to line this up? Well, first of all, you got to do things on the back because you place your stuff on the back so that you can sew it on the front. And I'm going to use one of these things that I don't normally use. It's called a pin. Didn't know they existed. Good morning, balloonist, watching from the pop-up today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the very center of the block, and I'm just going to poke through the center of it. So I have a pin poked in the center, and then I am going to take that and poke it through the center of the paper. And doing that, I have it lined up in the center, which is one of the two things that I need to do. The other thing is I need to line it up against the sides. And probably what I should have done first was put my glue tape down, just so that I have something to kind of stick the fabric to. It's more of a temporary adhesive than anything else. So now I'm going to come over here onto the side. I'm going to line up along the side, and that's a little too far out. Let's see if I can get this in the center. This is where you need a fourth hand. Oh, it's because this is trying to stick to that. Okay. So pull you through the center, and then I just want to line up one other side. I will do it probably about there, and then find where to poke it over here. I've not done this before, so I'm trying with the rest of everybody. So I am going to line it up and poke it through here. Come on, right there. So I should have two things lined up at this point, which means if I do this, I should be fairly lined up. I may try one more. Good morning, Joydy. And this time I'm just going to kind of poke all the way through, and that'll tell me how good it's lined up. And look at that. It's right on the line. So I think I am fairly good lined up. So I'm just going to now pull the pins, because I am pretty lined up. And I believe I have mint over mint. I don't. Which is why you got to look at these things. So apparently in the process of me lining things up, I rotated. So I need to do all of this again. So it's a pokey straight through. I'm going to refresh my glue dots just a little bit more. And mint goes over mint, so I'm just going to put this right back in the center dot. And while I am trying to do this, poke through there, and I'm just barely poking in. This is what happens when you have OCD and you want to get your quilt blocks just right. And it doesn't help that this paper is really large. Okay. That's the existing hole, and that should go into there. Okay, so I have two of these lined up. That is not the right hole. I know, riveting entertainment. That's the right hole. And then if I did things right, maybe a pen's not the right tool for this. But I have two of these in here, so now maybe if I poke through there, that's a little off. Okay, I've got 3 pins in. I should be able to line these up, pull these up, and press down. That's as good as I'm going to get it. Let's see. Good morning, Brian. Uh-oh. Brian had to spell check himself. Good morning, Dubraka. Okay. This, I think, is going to be close enough. So I got the glue stick on here. Better to find it before sewing. Yes, Ingrid. Another one of the wonderful folks who are doing this, I'm not going to call out their name. They sent me their block done and said, how do you think I did? And I was like, it looks gorgeous, but I think your center square went off by 90 degrees. And then I showed her one of my blocks where I did something similar. So I can't, you know, I'm not going to fault somebody for something that I do myself. I'm not going to fault somebody for something that I don't do myself. So my pile of fabrics, I have exactly in the order that they need to go. So that means I don't have to do any thinking except counting 5 through 20. And the reason why I do it that way is because it is easier than having to go back to the pattern every single time and say, okay, which number am I on now? It's this number. Which fabric is it? Grab this fabric. So the other good thing is these foundations are color coded. So the gray ones correspond to the purple hexagons, this fabric. And then the light ones will correspond to something else. It's either going to be the mint or the purple fairy dust. So that makes it easier. And like I said, once you get your first ones going, this is super simple. It's just getting them going. And that looks pretty good. Do the other side. So I'm just off to the side, trimming my 1/4 inch seam, which is this. And then when I open it up, I just come over here, grab the top from the next pile, and I kind of center it, because in this pattern, things should be centered. Other patterns, you may need to do something off center. Foundation paper piecing is very much an art combined with a science. I think somebody once told me, as long as the fabric that you are putting on there is bigger than what you're trying to cover, you'll be fine. And that means you could put a whole bolt of fabric underneath there, and you're just going to trim off, and you're going to have a big giant, almost a whole bolt there. Putting a whole bolt is very impractical, but it just says you can do larger pieces than you need to. And then I'm just going to press these two back. And I'm sure if I wanted all of my hexagons to always go up and down, I could have probably done something with the cutting instructions to modify it, but I think that rotating with the snail's trail is probably going to look a lot better. And normally, when I am working on these dragon fruit blocks, I will do both sides at one time. But because both sides are different colors in this block, I'm only doing one at a time, and I'm making sure I do the correct one, because otherwise I will get confused. Although I may start doing it more later. So with this one, I know that I am needing the purple. The purple is the next one up here. So that's telling me I'm doing everything in the correct order. Once you get the first 5 pieces, and I'm saying 5 specifically because they rotate in a certain direction. Once you get the first 5, it's a lot easier. But until you get to that 5th one, it's a little bit harder to identify which pieces are next. Okay, there's 7, and then 8 is on the other side. So this morning has already been one of those, Russ is running around days. We had Saturday sampler this morning, which honestly, it has felt forever since I've been to Saturday sampler, because it's been 7 weeks. All because, I had to do first Saturday last month, and we had one of those 5 Saturday months. So it has been 8 weeks from first Saturday to the next month's third Saturday, or 7 weeks. So yeah, I was just like, okay, I'm exhausted, but you know, I had everything that I needed to go there. I did not have show and tell this month because I haven't touched the long arm. But I was like, ooh, you guys are having classes, and one of the classes is Pro Stitcher for the long arm. And I was like, that's interesting because they don't normally teach Pro Stitcher, because if you're renting their long arm, they say it doesn't make sense to use Pro Stitcher because you're just basically borrowing time, like paying, I think it's like $20 an hour to watch the machine do the work. And I was like, I get that, I understand, makes sense. And then so I was like, why are they offering Pro Stitcher? That doesn't jive with their normal philosophy when it comes to using the long arm. And when they got around to teaching or talking about the classes, they said that that one is actually being offered by Handy Quilter. They're bringing Handy Quilter in. They're taking the entire classroom space downstairs, and they're going to be setting up a whole bunch of Handy Quilter machines. And I was like, ooh, if it's from Handy Quilter, I really do want to take this class. And when they finally started talking about it, the class I want is on a Monday. And it's not just a Monday. I don't know if I can get that Monday off. So I need to go and look at the calendar. And not only do I need to look at the calendar, but I got to look to see what I'm willing to give up later in the year, because we've only got so many days off, and I've already got certain days that are scheduled. I mean, I know our company, they say we have unlimited time off, but yeah, we've heard rumors that people have kind of gotten in trouble for taking too many days. And by too many days, the legacy amount of time that our group would have off, because we've been around for so long, was 28 days. So that's what we normally take, is 28 days. But people have gotten in trouble for taking 30. And I'm like, if I got in trouble for taking too many days when our policy is unlimited, I want that in writing so that I can get an explanation from HR why unlimited caps off at 29. But, you know, we're still honest people. We're like, let's make sure we get our 28 days that we're basically promised. And if something comes up and you need an extra one, like in December, I don't think that's a big deal. But we're not going to sit there and abuse it and say, well, this came up and this came up, and I don't want to give up anything else. So I got to figure out what I'm going to give up. The whole reason why companies go to unlimited PTO is so they don't have to pay out PTO when you leave. Because when you were accruing PTO, that was part of your total compensation, and like if you left with 8 PTO days, they paid you out those 8 PTO days. Now that it's unlimited, they don't have to pay anything else if you don't have it. So, kind of rude, but So if you start looking now, you can kind of see the little swirl happening here and then happening here. We're going to get the same thing with the purples in a second. But that's telling me I've got the directions in the right direction. And the reason why I want to take the Pro Stitcher class is because I have weird problems when I advance my quilt. And I call them weird because they're not consistent. If it was consistent, I would be able to, you know, work around it. But because it could be consistent, I'm just potentially doing something different each time. But I don't see how I'm doing something different each time because I'm writing things down and I am following the steps that I wrote down. So I know I'm doing the exact same thing every time, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For all I know, I've got a buggy version of Pro Stitcher. Good morning, John from Guys Craft 2, who is boarding his flight but wanted to say hi. Hi, John. John has been in Myrtle Beach visiting his family. If you saw his live last week, last Sunday, you will know that his granddaughter Ava Marie decided to let him on her channel. Because I guess it's her channel when they're out together. It's a fun thing. So he has been spending a lot of quality time with family. He's introduced his partner to Waffle House, which y'all have a Waffle House in Phoenix. I don't know why it took you going to Myrtle Beach before you did, but either way. Okay, yeah, the answer is Filiberto's is better. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can switch a couple days off in order to take that class and hopefully understand what I'm doing wrong with my Pro Stitcher. Because I've asked people that I know that have Pro Stitcher and they're like, that doesn't make sense. I've asked somebody else who was at a different shop and she goes, yeah, I've just gotten accustomed to always doing it. I'm like, but it needs to be consistent. And if it's not consistent, that's a problem. This is coming out so awesome. The one other time that I have done the one other time that I did a snail trail was when I did my not beginner, intermediate class. They called it Sampler Savvy. And let's see, that's 9 and 10, so I need 11, 12, 13 is what I'm doing next, and 14. And we did it the traditional method. And I honestly do not remember how I did it. But, you know, Fat Quarter Shop has our back with this program, and everything is foundation paper pieced. So I didn't have to remember how to do a snail trail. I just had to remember how to do foundation paper piecing, which is every single block in this program. And as I said, this block is not any harder than the other blocks that we have done. It's just the starting off point is slightly different. But once you get started, it's all the same. Ingrid says she is working today, but hoping to get some sewing in this afternoon. I need some creative time to give my brain a break. I understand that. I have a little bit of afternoon plans. A friend of mine texted me a few weeks ago and said that today is one of the Pokemon Go community days, and he asked if I wanted to go walk around with them. I think his intent was to say, will you install the game and play with us? But I'm like, I'll go walk if it's a nice day. So it's going to be a nice day, and community day, which this is part of the reason why I had to give up the game. Community day is a 3-hour period that the game designers have picked in, and it is from 2 to 5. So they are calling an entire day 3 hours. And the one thing that people in Georgia want to do is hang out in the sun from 2 to 5. Oh, this kind of... So my stitching got very wonky. Well, my stitching didn't go wonky. The fabric went wonky. But as long as I can pull it up and everything covers, which it does, that's fine. I may come back here and trim the little bit here, because this side is so, like, if I line it up, that's how much I went over. But everything lines up, so it's not a big deal. I can come over here and just retrim to keep the bulkiness down. So yeah, that's what I just trimmed off the back because it went slightly wonky. It's not a big deal. And then this one. And like I said, this is what's great about... I've already put the fabrics in order. So all I have to do is just reach over to the side and grab the next fabric. I'm not going to sit here and try to chain piece this. Oh, I don't want to say chain piece because you can't chain piece foundation paper. I'm not going to sit here and do all the 5s at one time, all the 6s at one time, all the 7s at one time, because if I do one of them wrong, I will do all of them wrong. And I've already experienced the problems with that. Okay, I went a little off on this one, but this one's not as bad. That is one of the problems with upside down and backwards. You don't always get to see where your seams are going to stay, or if your fabric has stayed exactly where you want it to stay. But it will work. Okay, and and then these sides. And when I'm popping the stitches off the papers, I usually prefer the fabric side up to pop the stitches. Okay. And I am using an add a quarter ruler. It's got this little bit of a lip right here that is 1/4 of an inch. So when you fold your paper back, you can put the lip on the edge of your paper so you know how much you need to cut off. You don't need an add a quarter ruler. You can do this with a standard ruler, which I don't have one convenient right now. But you just line your 1/4 inch mark on the folded paper and it does exactly the same thing. So sometimes the tools are just there to help us just a little bit. The fun thing once you get to a certain point is I know if my triangle matches up with the center seam, then this is centered. Another amusing thing from Saturday Sampler this morning was, I guess Moda hosted a shop owners retreat recently. I don't know when it was. Not a shop owner. I don't have any privy to it. So obviously all I know is what I was told. But one of the shop owners, she said that while she was sewing, she saw this lady with this little laser thing hooked up to her machine, and it did basically the same thing as my laser light. And then she spent like 4 or 5 minutes talking it up to people because she had bought a bunch to bring back and obviously sell. And all I was seeing through the entire thing is that's kind of one of the reasons why I purchased this machine, is because it's got a laser light. So, you know, I don't have to, or that I was able to do the whole bunch of things that you do with the laser light. So, but the fact that they have them in stock now makes me like, okay, do I really want to buy one for my travel machine? Because that was one of my complaints when I brought my travel machine to Stephanie's retreat last year and the year before. It was like, I don't have my laser line for when I'm doing half square triangles or paper piecing, because I love it with paper piecing because I can just line the paper line up with the laser line, and I know that I'm going to be kind of straight. I know you could also do the whole driving a car method where you try to aim the paper to the right place. But I'm like, I sew slow enough that I prefer the laser light to do that. So I was like, maybe I'll get it for that. I don't know. I haven't decided that far yet. But it's the same product that I have in one of my browsing tabs with an idea of Do I want to buy this? Do I want to buy this? Do I want to buy this? I kind of feel like when I did the snail trail with my block that I ended after this many rounds because I kind of remember my center being on point. But maybe I did have another round and we made 12-inch blocks. I mean, all I have to do to make this size block be a 12, or this shape block be 12, is make the center a little bit bigger. So I don't remember what I did, but let's see, 17 and 18 are over here. So, show of hands. Who is currently in or will be joining Steven's So Day shortly? Because we know how much, Steven gets jealous when people are double dipping on his So Days. There. I won't rat you out though. Marie says, her in a while. Awesome. Ingrid is going to join his So Day, and when she finishes up the work she's doing. Ingrid, I mean, all work and no play. I also understand deadlines. I hate when I have to work on weekends. Duvraka is asking where I got the paper for this. And what do I call this method? So, I got good news and bad news and good news. This is a snail trail. And it's foundation paper piecing. And I got it from this. So, that's where the bad news comes in because they are out of these. But the good news, again, is they do sell like an entire book of snail trails only. This book, it has courthouse steps, economy, and snail trails in it, as you see over here. So different pages will have like there's the economy block, and then up here, if I have any left, is courthouse steps. So they had multiple of these in here, but that was specifically good to go with dragon fruit. If you are looking just to do snail trails, Fat Quarter Shop sells just the papers in a booklet of just snail trail. They also have, like I said, the courthouse steps. They also have the economy block, and they have them in 12-inch, which is this size. They also have them in 6-inch, and I think they have them in 4-inch. They should. So if you are a fan of foundation paper piecing and want to do a block, basically you want to do one of these more complicated blocks, or if you want them to come out looking perfect, that is the other thing that this do. You can be, wonky with your cutting, but in the end they come out looking perfect. I do recommend this. I also have a tendency to do my what are those things called? Half square triangles using triangulations. But you could also purchase a triangle paper from Fat Quarter Shop. And I'm also telling you, because it popped in my head the other day, because of their different sizes they have. I have a quilt pattern, a quilt kit that is a whole bunch of a square and a square. And my initial gut instinct was to design the square and a square in EQ8 and then print it out on newsprint. And I've basically been delaying that because I can only, because it's a 4.5-inch unfinished. Oh, I might be able to fit 2 on one page. I thought at first I was like I can only fit 1 on one page, but I had to fit 2. Or I should be able to fit 2, just barely. But because of that, I'm going to be sitting here cutting out 6 billion, not quite 6 billion, but a large number of these blocks. And I'm like, do I really want to sit here and do the slicing of 6 billion blocks? And then I was like, basically, Fat Quarter Shop sells the paper, sells the foundation papers. And if I buy, I don't know, if it's going to cost me 20 to do, it would cost me 20 books. I don't know how many books. I'm just estimating. And they're $10 a book. That's, $200. Is $200 worth my time for having to trim 600 of these blocks out of paper? And it's not the final trim, it's that initial trim, because you don't want to be working with something that's a lot larger than you need. So I need to go back to the pattern and say, okay, how many do I need? How many books of this would it cost? And once I figure out how many books it is that worth the price? And my guess is it will be worth the price. And then I can start putting that project on my higher up list. Because, there's sometimes, I could do it the traditional method. I even bought the ruler to do it the traditional method. But I've also been enjoying the way that these blocks come together using the fat quarter shop paper. And because I've been enjoying it this way, I'm a little bit more inclined to say, hey, fat quarter shop, you want a little bit more of my business. And, you know, if I have to buy enough and it gives me free shipping, all the better. So that I'm probably going to start looking at later this week to see how many I need. And I was like, I can do them as leader and ender. No, I can't, because you cannot use foundation paper piecing as leaders and enders. If I did it the traditional method, I could make them using leaders and enders. But then that's a lot of thinking and overthinking, and I don't have time for that. Okay, something is greatly messed up here. And if I didn't catch this on camera, I would not have believed me. The seam I just finished is this one, which is number 20. The previous seam was this one, which is 19. Somehow, half of 19 didn't sew. But all of 20 did. How does that happen? My first instinct was something got unthreaded, but bobbin is full. It's still sewed for 20. How? Like I said, if I didn't, like, this is on camera. I don't know how this happened. Oh, it's the first half of 19 that didn't sew. Because I'm now looking, it caught here. I started sewing up here. So I'm stitch, and then somehow it decided to start. Let's see what happens when I do this again. And I'm just going to stop right there. Gremlins. Yes. Okay. No idea how that happened. The stitches look fine. And it was either Wednesday or yesterday, and I can't remember which because there was a holiday on Thursday, was the something anniversary of Gremlins 2 coming out. And the reason why I know that is because we got a posting that said, and it had a whole bunch of behind the scenes pictures, which is pretty cool. But I think I'm going to have to sit here and rewind my video to figure out how I did it. I lost my mind for a second. Okay. So this is the finished block It's one of four. Let me see if I could switch back to front only. So right here, all I had to do is trim up the back to the lines, um, which I will do that when I get ready to put it into the quilt, when I have everything there. And it took me basically almost an hour to get that first one done. I thought maybe I could get a second one done, but I guess not, because I didn't even fold the second piece of paper. So yeah, I will need to spend some time folding each of these, and then I can work on number 2 of 4. And I think I gotta, like I said, figure out what I did wonky, how my machine, I don't know whether it unthreaded itself and somehow just decided to rethread it, or what. Joydy says it looks like octopus legs. I can see it. I think the first time that I did this block, I called it a hurricane block because, life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. You might solve a mystery or rewrite history. Okay, yeah, DuckTales, woo woo. Hopefully that did not get me a copyright strike because I can't sing. You can't legally call what I do singing. But I think what I'm going to do now is sit here and start folding his papers. I'm going to go over and log into Steven's Pop-Up Sew Day. If you are not a member of Steven's channel, look up The Idiot Quilter. And on his videos this week, he has a direct link to the Pop-Up Sew Day. It's free for everyone, so go ahead and join it. It's just a lot of fun. And I will work on number 2 for a little bit. And then I also have some research I need to get done today on a few things. And like I said, I got to figure out if I can get a Monday off in a couple weeks. I almost wonder if I could change my week off to be from the week that I chose. I probably can't. I probably chose that week off because somebody has days off the previous week. So I had to figure out a whole bunch of things. So I'm going to log off and chit chat with y'all later.